Hello everybody. I greatly appreciate that you are here with me. In this video, I will demonstrate the process of meditating with sound or bringing our concentration on any kind of sound. But especially I will deal with the sound of Tibetan bowl, which I have here with me. There are two different types. One is smaller one but thicker one, and one is slightly bigger one but thinner one. I have several hammers here which we struck it. I'll be using this one to hammer it for today's meditation. While meditating, we should always bring our complete focus and concentration on the object of meditation. So when there is an object of focus, and we try to remove other sensational inputs, that is thoughts or other sensational that is coming from our body, and bringing our focus to the object of focus. In today's case, it will be a sound coming from the Tibetan bowl. How can we get the most benefit out of the Tibetan bowl sound when we meditate? Or what are the precise characteristic features that can help you bring more concentration or deeper concentration when you are doing the meditation, focusing on a particular sound? It can be with the sound of the river if you are on the side of the river, or it can be in the forest where you have a sound of the bird on the background. The bird is making a sound. How do we bring the focus, and what are the features that we make our meditation better? In which properties of the sound do we concentrate to make our meditation fruitful? It is, especially if I'll say, the best way to gain I would say most greatest output from the meditation sitting when you have certain kind of sound is on focusing on the very subtle, very minute sound that remains at the end. And this thing may not be possible if there is a recurrence of sound that is appearing again and again. Just like if I struck one time and then again I struck another time, then there is the vibration, damping of the vibration at the end. It does not attain, or we don't receive that as we again hit and produce the vibration from its peak. So in case of a lot of stops, like when you are concentrating on the river sound, then there is a constant amplitude of the sound that comes, and we concentrate on that constant amplitude of the sound. In case we are concentrating on the sound of the bird that is singing, then it is also the same thing that we may not find always this the in tail of the sound, which is generally in physical term called coda kind of sound, which is at the end remains a very small vibration, a very small vibrating energy in the ear, and we should be able to catching that and bringing our concentration, and that will be the best concentration or best meditative state when we are bringing our meditation sitting on any kind of sound. So but this kind of very low vibration state at the end of the vibration, which just tries to fade out, can be achieved from sounds from Tibetan bowl, or from Tingsa bell, which just starts with a very high amplitude and then goes on damping. So just starts with the high amplitude and then goes on damping. At the end, it remains a very damped vibration. I have also a complete video on the sound of Tingsa bell, which you can watch in some other time from the YouTube or somewhere in the internet. But that essence of sound at the end of the vibration is so subtle, so minute, and it's much more difficult to concentrate. And we always prioritize the thing that is difficult, and this time also it seems that in meditation we also prioritize the thing that is difficult, but it's not that one, because the idea is to check out what is our level of concentration, and then to increase our level of concentration, to bring a more focus on it, and the more subtle sound it is more focus we need it. And as you practice in this very small subtle sound, our focusing practice will increase. Our capacity to focus on very small thing and removing other sensational inputs will increase. This will help us to increase the state of meditation, or increase the meditative state of our inner being, and then also to attain much more calm and tranquility, or the state of tranquility. Much more calmer and state of tranquility can be achieved when we have concentration on a very subtle phenomenon, very subtle and very small phenomenon. So in this case, I'll be stroking the Tibetan bowl, and then we bring our focus on the sound that the ball produces, and then we continue to focus on the sound until it damps, until it is very subtle, and then we are not able to listen anymore. So in this case, we are bringing our sensations input, that is from the ear, rather than from the eyes or from the skin or from other thoughts. We just try to focus on the sound as it is, rather than we create. And then we bring our full concentration on the information that our ear has received, and then just try to stay on that information, and that information should be the sound coming from the Tibetan bell, none other sound like other disturbances. So we bring our information we bring our focus on the information that is coming from our ear, but specifically that is associated with the sound from the Tibetan bowl. Or in other words, in a general way, we say that on the sound that is current focus point in the meditation sitting. So in your case it can be any other things. So now let us start, and then we should have the proper posture. So the posture is the most comfortable posture that you can sit or stand or lie down. In the case if you are lying down, then there should be somebody else to ring the Tibetan bowl itself. So otherwise sitting is most preferable, so that you can just play your bowl yourself and then bring your focus on that sound. So we can have any kind of mudra. My recommendation is a very comfortable one where your hand doesn't need extra energy. So it can be like this, or like this to channel your energy together, or like this without the thumb going together also it works. Putting our hand below our belly, starting by breathing in, breathing out. We start from Anapana, breathing in, breathing out. So let us breathe in slowly from our stomach, and then breathe out slowly. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So just continue this for a few more time. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When we feel that we are in a most calm state, in a very tranquil state, both in our body and in our mind, then we start to stroke the Tibetan bowl. Let me do it with the thinner one. So I just now could not hear anymore the sound of Tibetan bowl. In this case, what happened is that the sound increased very high and then went on slowly decreasing, and at the end there was a very faint sound. We can bring our focus on the very high sound. This is quite normal. Bringing the focus on the tail point or the damped vibration will help us to increase our level of concentration and increase our state of meditation. So level where we reach will be different, like until when I will be listening the sound, and until another person will be listening in a different length than me, so it will be different from everybody else. It depends upon a lot of physical features of our body, ear, and even our surrounding. But we should try always to bring our focus and concentration in the minute experiences that we receive from our sensory organ, especially in case of sound, it is the ear. While we are listening to the sound, we continue to breathe in and breathe out like we do in the starting phase, to bring ourselves calm, to make ourselves calm from inside and outside. And that level of breathing, the long, deep breath should continue as we focus on the sound. And when there is a sound, then we bring our focus on the sound rather than the breathing process. So we start from the breathing in, we bring our focus on the breathing process, we think how deep it is or how shallow it is. We bring our observation on the type of the air flowing in, it is hot or it is cold, where it is touching, where it is flowing, all those observations, and being aware of our stillness and calmness that we attain as we breathe in and breathe out. And as we go on doing this, we attain a very tranquil state, and then we come with the Tibetan bowl sound. We struck it, and as soon as we struck the Tibetan bowl sound, we continue to breathe in the same frequency we were breathing before, but by then bringing our observation on the sound that is coming from the Tibetan bowl, understanding its change in amplitude, change in pitch, change in quality as the damping starts and tail becomes longer and longer, but continuing to breathe in the same frequency and being aware on the sound itself, but not being concentrating on how the breath is. So breathing is a very essential process. If we do not breathe in a proper frequency, we may not be able to have the calmness inside us, which will make difficult to bring concentration on the sound that we want to focus on. So let us again breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Observe your breath, if it is long, if it is short, where it is touching. and as you feel you are in this state of calmness, you can continue with the stroking of Tibetan bowl, or we can be also creating the sound by any other means. And then we observe the change in pitch, change in amplitude, bringing our focus from the breath, outside of the breath, to the sound itself, and bringing out both the awareness and observation on the sound and its vibration and the damping process. You can observe that the sound is very smaller and faint, but I still can hear it. I can see the sound that is going round, just like that. Sorry, I can hear it. So the bowl sound still going on. So now I cannot figure it out if there is a sound or not. So this was the end. For me, this was the end of its vibration. So one more time. Let us again focus on breath. Make ourselves calm again. And then again stroke. Bring our focus on the sound, its amplitude, its pitch, its quality. Observe the damping process, damping of the sound. Other qualities like rolling sound is there, vibrating one. It goes towards the tail, very small vibration still there. So now it ceases to vibrate for me anymore. So this is the process when we meditate on the sound, when we bring our active observation and awareness on the source of external sound. And I have, as I told before, that in some cases we have a continuous amplitude of sound, like a sound of the water in the flowing river, which can be a complete amplitude. But by then there can be a very minute subtle sound on the background, which if you could catch it and bring your focus and concentration on that, that will be much more effective process of concentration or effective meditation. So this is the way how we focus on some external object of focus, especially in sound. And in case of sound, it is very peculiar and very interesting, because if there is a damping process, then it just brings our current state of our inner being which may not be too calm, to a very calmer state as we focus on a higher pitch, and then it goes in decreasing. And as we bring our focus on that softer sound, we will be also changed into or brought into the calmer state. It's just like a dragging the string and bringing you to the point where you want, taking you in the direction where you want. So it is much more effective when you are not feeling more focused, when you are highly anxious, and then it will just bring down your high vibrating state or high anxious state to a very subtle and minute and more focused state. Let us do one more time before we end this session. Okay, first of all, we calm ourselves down. Breathe in long, breathe out long. Bring your both observation and awareness on the breath. I wish you all peace and tranquility.